Now, at that point, when you started, when you said, I want to start getting better, what were you shooting around, or what was your handicap about?
Think at that time, my handicap was about an 8.5. That's when I started tracking it like beginning of last year.
And now, just so everyone knows, now, where are you at right now?
Right now, I'm at a 2.4.
That's awesome. Welcome to the Sea Golf Sea Driven Show, where we are driven to get better at golf and learn more about improvement too. Today, I'm joined by Mitch in Minnesota. Thank you, Mitch, for joining me. It's great to have you on.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks for the invite. Excited to do this.
Yeah, so I'm always curious about how people get started in golf. So, can you tell me, when did you start playing? How'd you get into the game?
Sure. Yeah, I started playing when I was really, really young, probably 6, 7 years old. I was one of those kids that got into golf like as soon as Tiger Woods came onto the scene. Won 1997 Masters, and I was hooked immediately. But it did help that my oldest sister also played golf, so I went out with her and played a bunch. Yeah, then my local course, this little 9-hole rural course in southeast Minnesota, they had Mondays during the summer, which were kids' days. So they just had a couple of people who knew golf, knew the game of golf out there teaching. They weren't like PGA professionals by any means, but they understood the game. So went out there every Monday during the summer in my youth, did some lessons there, played, and just kind of took off. I guess fell in love with the game. It's a grind, but you know how it is.
That's cool, and that's a great. I grew up in the same time period. That's a great time period to be, enjoying golf and watching golf. Now, were you always hooked on getting better, or was it you're just loving the game? And then, what point did you decide, well, I want to get better. I want to score. I want to, make some improvements.
You know, I guess I don't really know when it happened, but I knew I was good at the game. Not, I know I'm not good enough to be on tour or anything like that. I don't have any like crazy aspirations, but for where I was with the people I was playing with, like I understood I was good at the game. So I ended up joining the golf team probably seventh grade. That sounds right. And then I think from seventh or eighth grade on, I was always on the varsity team or like right on that line. Because you can only take 6 golfers in high school. So I was always right on that line. And then towards my junior year, senior year, I was always in that like top four on our team. But then it was kind of weird right after that. I kind of fell out of playing golf when I went to college and just trying to figure out life, how that happens. And
Yeah.
just didn't really play more than once or twice a year for a few years. And then yeah, when was it? I think it might have been 4 or 5 years ago now where I just I really, really started getting back into the game. Decided I wanted to get better. Knew I could be better. I knew I could score better. And then it was last year. I decided that I wanted to get back into competitive golf. After high school, that's when I was playing competitive. Never played in college, but last year I wanted to get back into it. Looked into Minnesota's what they have available as far as tournaments go. Saw the MGA Mid Amateur Tournament, which is a 3-day stroke play tournament. And I was like, I'm going to sign up for this. Told my wife, I'm going to sign up. I want to get back into this. I told her, I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I need to really focus on getting better, learning how to score. And that was like the first time I was like, okay, I need to find somebody who I can get lessons from, like a real professional. Then it
Now,
just took off.
so you mentioned in lessons, how do you decide when to get lessons, or are you doing it online, in person? How often do you do them? That sort of stuff.
Yeah. So when I first started, I just found a local pro, Summerby Golf Club. Really good guy. Just found him through a Google search. Didn't really know what to look for, to be honest with you. I never had a professional coach like that before. So when I found him, I think I signed up for his 3-lesson package and just kind of figure out, where my swing was at that time and where it needed to go. And I was that classic guy who, rolls the club way far inside, gets up and across, and really ugly, but I knew how to match it up. I was good enough at the game where I could figure out ways to match it up so I could at least hit the club square most of the time. But the misses were really, really bad misses.
Now, at that point, when you started, when you said, I want to start getting better, what were you shooting around, or what was your handicap about?
I think at that time, my handicap was about an 8.5. That's when I started tracking it, like beginning of last year.
And now, just so everyone knows, now, where are you at right now?
Right now I'm at a 2.4.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so what, a year and a half to drop it from an 8.5 to a 2.4?
So you're getting lessons from your local pro at this point. Like, are you practicing a lot? Are you playing a lot? What are you like? Take me through that.
Yeah, so take it through as far as like where I was then, like last year around April.
So, you started the process of getting lessons, and then like, did you decide like, okay, I'm going to start practicing 3 days a week? I'm going to, play 3 times a week. Tell me
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. So at that time, I wasn't a part of a club or anything. So I didn't play as much. I was playing maybe once or twice a week. But what I would do is I would go out and I would practice probably 4 days a week, where I would be at the range 2 days a week. And then I would spend 2 days chipping and putting and just really focusing on that short game aspect. Of course, I was practicing, didn't have great facilities, not great balls, range balls that were so worn down and can't really tell what they're doing, but at least gave me an idea of what I was working on and where I needed and how to improve there. I think one of the big things that I practiced a lot of is the range had a 75, 100, and 125 yard marker, and I think 150. And I would just pick clubs and just hit to those yardages over and over and over and over.
Okay.
I that's probably one of the best things that's helped me is just trying to figure out those yardages and hitting that number.
And then like with different clubs, the same yardage. So like 3 clubs to the 100 marker, or, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would do a lot of that. Honestly, I would take anything down to like a 4 iron and just try to like hit the 75 yard stick, just to kind of get that feeling of just that low punch shot. That if you're ever in a situation you need to keep it below a tree or something like that. And I think that's something a lot of golfers don't spend a lot of time doing, especially those mid-die handicappers, because they don't spend a lot of time just messing with trajectories and just seeing what they can do.
Yeah. And then like, you're dialing in your distances there. You're getting a feel for what different things feel like. We're just probably a lot of people are just trying to hit the same shot over and over again in the same distance, or not even caring about the distance.
Exactly. If don't have a target, what are they really trying to do? Just go out there and hit as many balls as they can, or are they trying to hit to something specific?
Now, did you like your short game and chipping? Did you like really focus on different things, or was it similar where you're kind of more experimenting with different things, trying to get a feel for it? Was it kind of random practice, or was it more block?
I would say it was a mix, probably more random than anything. Like the area I had, it a few like low areas, some thicker rough, some thinner rough, and I would just throw a handful of balls, and wherever they landed. I would just pick a flag and go to each ball and try to hit to that flag. So I try to get some, where the ball is below my feet, above my feet, where I'm hitting up a hill, down a hill, just trying to understand how the ball is going to fly out of each one of those lies. Ball below your feet, it's probably going to go a little more right. Ball downhill, it's going to try to come out a little bit lower. So just trying to understand how the lie is going to affect the shot. I think that translates really well to the golf course because you're not going to have a perfect lie every single time.
Now, throughout this like year and a half, has your practice routine and playing routine kind of stayed the same, or has it like changed as the years gone on?
As I've gotten better, especially this year, I feel my swing and my ball striking is in a really good spot where I don't really spend that much time on the range, hitting to different targets. I'll go and I'll warm up and I'll make sure I'm striking the ball well. But then I just go out and play. I'm playing a lot more now than I did last year. And I think that helps me as somebody who is on the lower single digit side, where my improvement is going to come from understanding the situation, where I'm at on the golf course and what shot to hit versus, knowing how to hit to a number.
Playing different lies and
Yeah.
for this is the same lie. Now, would you work on like before you were, when you were practicing more, would you work on things like ground contact and face strike, or was mostly would you do that sort of stuff?
Well, actually, I came across, Adam Young and John Sherman, their podcast, The Sweet Spot, and they were talking about, a differential practice where you try to hit it off the toe, you know, shanks and thin it and top it. And honestly, I just when I messed around with that for a while, and I kind of noticed my patterns, and then I learned how to move it a little bit. And I used to miss a lot of shots off the toe, and
Okay.
honestly, now I think with some of the work I've done on my swing, plus some of that, I almost have like more of a heel bias this year than I do a toe bias. But I absolutely love doing that kind of stuff, and it's honestly it's a lot of fun. Just go out there, and I think I posted one video in the winter when I was practicing where I like just hit a top shot and it just like popped straight up in the air off the mat and came back down. Up, just really fun. Do that kind of stuff.
Cool. Now, Mitch, you're the second person to give a shout out to Adam and John. So, Adam and John, if you ever want to come on the show, feel free. So, you're playing a lot more, and like, do you ever feel like you have to like go to the range and like kind of recalibrate things, or is it more like you said, just warming up on the range? Then,
That's an interesting question because I think I just had this realization a few weeks back that if I ever get into a habit where I'm not practicing at all, like I'm working with Ryan, I think you would pronounce his last name Moke from Australia online. I've been working with him since November. I'm just playing a lot, and I'm not at the range trying to work on my mechanics. I feel like I tend to get into old habits, and I can feel it. I can feel my wrist cupping more. I don't have my wrist extended, and I get over the top, and I start pretty bad. But then I know that's when I go to the range maybe a couple of times to make sure doing those mechanics the way that I'm supposed to be. And then I go back to playing it. I usually resolve it pretty quick. But yeah, I do have to go to the range every now and then just to make sure that I refocus on those mechanics a little bit.
you mentioned that you're taking online lessons. How's that been going?
Really well, really, really well. I was a little surprised at how well it was going just because I didn't know what to expect with online lessons. Like I always felt like you needed to be more hands on, having somebody move my hands or my arms for me to like so I understood where I was supposed to be. But maybe it's just because Brian is a really good coach, but he really helped me understand through his feedback and his drills of how my body was supposed to be moving and what position they were supposed to be in. And I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, like getting online lesson, like how quick the feedback can be, and then how it's you have the feedback and you go and work on it. It's not like they're sitting with you for an hour. It's like it's boom, boom, boom. This is what you need to work on. That sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And like, for example, when I was working with my in-person coach, he would give me the drills and say, go do that, which is great. Thanks to him. But like the online is a little bit different. When Ryan had me working on a drill, he would just say, hey, send me a video tomorrow or today or whenever you can. I just want to make sure you're doing it right. And then I remember when I first started working with him, I was working on my pivot, and he had me doing this ball on the wall drill. I thought I was doing it right. I wasn't. Like I was like way too far one way, and it wasn't quite right. But that feedback and that really quick response, I think, is something that's underutilized right now. I think it's going to change over time, but I think it's underutilized, that online aspect.
Now, you've taken lessons, you've practiced. Did you do anything like fitness wise or mobility, anything like that? Any speed training?
Not a lot. I mean, I've been working out for quite some time now, the last several years, just general strength. I have tried to do a little bit more explosive work, a little bit more speed training. Got the stack system. I hurt my rotator cuff a while back, and I've been afraid to use it, but I still try to go out. Like right now, I'm not using the stack, but I'll go out and I'll just like when I'm having a range session, I'll just go and try to hit drivers just as hard as I can for
Okay.
10, 15, 20 swings, whatever it happens to be, and just really try to feel that. Yeah.
Okay. Now you mentioned like you warm up before your rounds. What's your warm up consist of? Is it just go and hit balls, putt, and go? Is it shutting the trunk and running to the tee?
There's definitely some of that. Like I'll go out and play with my boss or whatever, and that's usually just car to the tee, a few practice swings, and go. But no, when I'm actually warming up for a competitive round or I have a little bit more time, what I'll typically do is I'll just go and I'll hit a few wedges to start. If I have some time, I'll just set my phone up behind me, double check my mechanics real quick, make sure the club at the top of my swing is where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Then after that, it's really just I'll hit some pitching wedges, 7 irons, 4 irons, maybe a hybrid or a 3 wood, and then a few driver swings, and then go hit a few putts just to get a feel for how fast the greens are, and then ready to go. It's usually maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops.
Now, have you done anything like to track like your strokes gained, your stats over this past year and a half, or is it something where you're just keeping track of your scores?
I kept track of my strokes gained a little bit. I was using Arcos for a little while. I haven't been using it for the last couple months. But in those, I think 10 to 15 rounds, whatever it was I used it for, I think it gave me a pretty good insight as to where I was. And most of my strokes gain losses were in penalties off the tee and putting, specifically 3 to 5 foot putts. I was losing so many strokes there. Breaking strokes. I think it was like
Yeah.
compared to a scratch golfer, and it was not good.
It's crazy. Like I would say, probably a lot of golfers, will miss a lot more of those 3 to 5 foot putts. Like some people probably take some very generous gimmies there, or they totally forget. Like, oh, I did 3 putt like 3 times from I missed like five 5 footers or 5 3 footers or something like that. It's crazy how many of those we do miss. It's we're not automatic.
I think some people take it for granted. I mean, just about a week ago, I was playing and I had 2 putts about 3 feet away that I missed, but they were a little bit downhill, and I had to start those outside of the hole, and I missed them on the low side. Like they broke probably 6 inches in that 3 feet.
I was just gonna say those downhill, break, 3 footers. They're scary.
They really are, because if they're uphill, you can be a little more aggressive, take some of the breakout, but you can't do that downhill, and you just have to kind of like drop it in there, because if you miss, it's going 5 6 feet by, and then you might miss that one coming back.
So I've got a few quick questions for you where I'm just going to fire them out there. And then I have like one final question before we wrap up. So you ready? All right. So what's the best training aid out there?
Stack system.
All right. What's your miss?
Right.
What's your favorite time of day to play?
Morning.
Okay. All right. Now, last question is, if you had advice for a golfer who's trying to get better, what would you say to that golfer?
Step one is hire a coach. Like you cannot coach yourself. I try to coach myself. It doesn't work. Number two would be you have to play more. I know guys who play 9 holes a week on men's league, and that's all, and they get upset when they're not playing well. And it's, well, you don't play or practice. And the last one is be when you do practice with some intention. Like know what you're going there for, what you're working on, and stick to that. Don't go and just hit a bucket of balls as fast as you can. If you're working on distance control, work on that. If you're working on base contact, work on that. Like just be more intentional.
Awesome. Now, Mitch, thank you so much for joining me. If people wanted to follow your journey, follow your tournament play, and watch it keep getting better, where could they find you if you're interested in sharing that?
They can find me at _consistent golf on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Then I also have a Substack where I write a little bit too at Consistent Golf Solutions Substack.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Be driven, everybody. Keep getting better. All right.